Hey guys, Brad from simpleguitar.com here, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about palm muting, because palm muting is one of the coolest techniques that you can use to add a little bit of variety to your playing and make it more interesting. If all you're doing is playing everything open, just like this, and you're just letting everything ring open all the time, it's gonna get boring after a while because everything's gonna start to sound the same. And so with palm muting, you can change up how you sound and add a little bit of variety and make everything more interesting. Now the good thing is, even though I'm playing an electric guitar, I will show you how to do this on acoustic guitar as well, because you can use this for any style on any guitar. It's not just an electric guitar or a rock and roll type technique. So you can do this with anything. So what is palm muting? Palm muting is when you take the palm of your picking hand and you place it on the strings to mute them and keep them from just vibrating freely. If I take this part of my palm, the side of your hand, and right where the strings cross the string saddles right here, I'm actually gonna set the fleshy part of my palm right there on top. So my hand is angled down following where the strings go, okay? But my palm rests right there, and instead of the strings ringing out freely like this, my palm mutes it just a little bit, and you can still hear the note, which is good because we want to hear the note, but it makes it so that everything sounds nice and chunky and cool. Awesome, right? Now let's go ahead and actually zoom in so you can get a really good view of what's going on here, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay, now to do this, I tuned down to drop D, but here we are zoomed in so that you can see a lot better what's happening with my palm down here on the bridge. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by just taking the side of my palm here, and I'm gonna place it just sitting on the bridge or on the string saddles right here. And I tuned down to drop D so it sounds cool. And I can just hit an open chord there. But this way, with my palm, I'm not touching the strings right now. But the idea is I'm gonna scoot my hand closer to the strings, more towards the neck of the guitar this way, and I'm just barely gonna touch the strings with my palm. And just with the skin of my hand touching it just a little bit, it starts to mute the string and let it not ring out as freely. Now, here's the idea. If you just barely touch it, you get this really loose sounding palm mute. You hear how long they're still vibrating? But check this out. If I move my hand even further onto the string, now I get this really tight sounding palm mute. A lot tighter sounding. And I can go a little bit further and make it even tighter. And a little bit further and get super tight. But if I go too far, I lose the pitch and I get just muted strings, which we don't want that. So you start with your hand off the strings, you move slowly onto them, get a loose one, and then tighten it up, and then you can really tighten it up. So where your hand position is in relation to your string saddles will determine how loose your palm mute is or how tight. And so you're gonna have to mess around with that and try out some different things, but this is the placement. It's having your palm perpendicular to the strings, and it just rests on them to mute them just a little bit to keep them from vibrating freely. Now, just to prove that you can do this with an acoustic as well, here we are in my acoustic. I start by putting my palm along the bridge pins here, and then this white part is your saddle, okay? So right where your strings cross here is where you're gonna place your palm. So I can have it open. And then as I move my palm forward, And again, as far as I move my hand this way, I get a tighter sounding mute. And as I move my hand this way, more towards the tail here, then it gets a looser sounding mute. And so you have to experiment with which sound you like. That way you can adjust your palm mute to whatever situation you need it for. Okay, so that is the up close of how you do the palm muting technique. Now let's show you some examples of palm muting being used in different ways, because most of the time what most people will think of when they think about palm muting is just playing power chords on the guitar and playing like rock riffs and doing stuff like that. But you can actually do palm muting with anything. You can do it with open chords like this. I can mute that. I can do it with power chords. I can even do it on stuff that is being picked out. So instead of just doing it with strumming, you can use your palm muting with picking as well. So I could do this. So I could vary playing open and letting things ring out and then doing palm muting. And so I can come up with different stuff like this, like we did with power chords. And there, the palm muting helps create these accents when you play it open. But I can do that with other stuff too. I can do stuff like this. So I could take something that's open like this, and I could play it muted like this. And that totally changes the sound of it and gives you a little bit of variety in there. Totally different sonic options. Now, one of my most favorite things to do is doing the palm muting and then alternating by playing stuff open to create accents. That is one of the coolest sounding things. And here's how you do it. What you do is you have your hand palm muting. And you release the palm mute by actually moving your hand away from the guitar out. Like this, okay? So my hand is actually gonna come off the guitar, away from the guitar, and I'm really exaggerating this motion so that you can see it, but it is really coming off the guitar, away from the strings. It's not just sliding it back, away from being on the strings back here. I actually want it to come off. And by doing that, you can use the palm muting and then release the palm mute to create a cool open accent. Here's an example of a song that does that. The variation between having the palm muting and then releasing it for the accent is what makes that sound really cool. And you can do that same thing. Let's go a little bit closer so that you can see how to do the accenting and releasing the palm mute so that you can get used to doing that. Okay, so here we are zoomed in so you can see the palm muting with open accents. What you have to do is you have to relax your wrist and allow your wrist and your hand to move away from the guitar in this kind of motion. So your hand just lifts up. You don't want to be moving it back. You just want to release it and let it move up. Let your wrist bend and be away from the string so that they ring open. But then all you have to do is collapse that wrist back down and snap it down onto the strings. And there you get your palm mute again, but that way it'll sound nice and cool. So really slowly, something like this will look like this. And then as you speed it up, you can get like this. And that is how you do your palm muting with releasing it to do open accents. So guys, that is how you do palm muting on your guitar, whether you're playing electric or acoustic, it doesn't matter. You can use this for anything, but the idea is that you learn how to use it whenever you want to use it and you get really good at it. So remember, you just take the fleshy part of your palm, the side of your hand, and you're going to place it on the strings right where they cross the string saddle. And then you experiment with having a loose mute and having a tight mute. And where you move your hand is going to determine how tight or how loose your palm mute sounds. But practice that, experiment with it, try it out with different stuff, have fun, because now you can feel like more of a rock star because you can make these really cool sounds. Now, if you haven't already gotten it, I do have a free gift for you at my website. If you go to simpleguitar.com/top10, there you can download the top 10 things to learn on guitar first, which is 10 things that I love teaching beginners when they're first starting out because it gets them a lot of bang for their buck for their musical progress. Because instead of playing like a bunch of boring exercises or actually stuff that has a steeper learning curve, you can play simple, easy things that allow you to make real music right away. So go to simpleguitar.com/top10, download the guide there. Start feeling like more of a rock star, even if you're starting out, and impress your friends and family whenever you play for them, and have fun with this palm muting stuff. It's awesome. And again, thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any questions about this, do just leave a comment down below and I will get down there and help you out. And if this was helpful for you, do me a favor, hit the like button. That helps me out. And then I will catch you guys in the next video.